and a second step forward. And they began to build and to rebuild their lives, and perhaps even more, their faith and their hope in humanity and in the future. They began to bring children into the world. They began to think about jobs and education, about construction, and build they did, spiritually, metaphysically, materially and practically, communally, organizationally, in every which way. And within 3 years of that would-be moment at the Jockey Club in Sydney, Australia, on May 14th, 1948, after witnessing the lowest point in Jewish history, we witnessed its apex. In just the span of 1,000 days, in one of the most remarkable trajectories in modern history, the Jewish people returned to sovereignty in the land of Israel. Perhaps from today's vantage point, it may not seem like anything particularly special, but those of you who understand where we were, what we had been through, can grasp the extraordinary moment of that day on May the 14th. And not only had we established the state, but we defended the state. The same Jewish people that were unable to defend themselves during the Second World War, except in isolated cases, were now able to defend themselves against 5 organized armies, one of which had been very skillfully trained by the British. And once again, a miracle had occurred through faith and fortitude by the Jewish people. And Israel was determined not only to survive and to exist, but to thrive and to build. And once again, against all the odds, in a nation with no natural resources, only with the resources of human capital, Israel moved in 60 years to among the leading nations in the world, today a member of the OECD, ranked among the top nations in the world in the Human Development Index, with more Nobel Prize winners than all the immediate countries surrounding it combined, and having contributed in so many ways that this audience knows so well to advancing the frontiers of human knowledge and human experience for all people. And even more, in the United States, that Jewish community which could not find the political means to bring 930 people onto the shores of Florida from the St. Louis, determined never again, and set about organizing ourselves in such a way that we would become a formidable political force. And we would do it smartly, by also seeking to engage other Americans in this great cause, for we came to understand we were not alone. Take as but one example Harry Truman, the President of the United States following President Roosevelt. Was it not he from the state of Missouri, a Christian, who made the fateful decision against the advice of his own Secretary of War, George Marshall, to recognize the state of Israel? And was it not Harry Truman who said, in invoking that support, that his favorite psalm was number 137, "By the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down, yea, we wept, when we remembered Zion"? That was Harry Truman, an American Christian, speaking as so many other Americans have spoken. And since then, we have witnessed in the United States a country that has become pro-Israel, irrespective of who sits in the White House and who controls the Congress, because Israel has become not a Jewish issue in America, but a bipartisan American issue. And if there's one other country that I know of today which can accurately be described in the same terms, I believe it's this country. Yes, to be sure, it's not wall to wall. Yes, to be sure, there are challenges, especially looking ahead and looking at our campuses. But ladies and gentlemen, as we look at the world today and wonder, how bad is it? Will we make it through? My point is, we made it through worse, and we established miracles. Europe rebuilt. Remnant communities reestablished themselves. Years later, the Berlin Wall fell, and we rediscovered and reconnected with Jewish communities that had had a second powerful attack, the attack of communism. And if you visit today the 15 successor republics of the Soviet Union, if you visit today Poland, Hungary, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Serbia, Croatia, Romania, Bulgaria, you will see reestablished Jewish communities, again, yes, smaller, much smaller, scarred, but nonetheless reasserting the indomitability of Jewish life, of Jewish belief, of Jewish faith, and of Jewish commitment. So wherever I look, I see today signs of hope, signs of optimism, signs of progress. And so as we face the risks and the dangers today in the new vocabulary which includes words like delegitimization, demonization of Israel, UDI, the Unilateral Declaration of Independence of the Palestinians, BDS, the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, lawfare, and all of the other elements of the new lexicon of the enemies of the State of Israel, who wish to deny the Jewish people the right to self-determination, which has been ours for over 3,000 years and was reestablished 63 years ago upon the recommendation of the United Nations. My point is, we need to stand up, we need to stand tall, we need to stand proud, we need to stand unafraid. Be strong and of good courage, for the Lord thy God is with thee wheresoever thou goest, said Joshua. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a moment for each of us to stand up. This is a moment for each of us to dig deep into that reservoir of courage and commitment which has been an essential part of the Jewish people for over 3,000 years. We have defied all the odds at every stage of our history, and I submit to you that we will continue to defy the odds because we are here to stay. Israel is here to stay. Our presence is permanent and our job is unfinished. Our job, after all, is not simply the job of surviving, of proving our enemies wrong. Our job, we have been taught, is to try and perfect the world, to repair a broken world, to be a light unto the nations. It also means, as we speak to our young people, talking more about the joy in Jewish life and less about the oi in Jewish life. It means reminding ourselves why we are on this journey, reminding each other why we are on this journey. So yes, I see the very same challenges that you do. I lose sleep at night over Iran's ambitions and my conviction that Ahmadinejad and Khamenei mean what they say when they wish for a world without Israel. I lose sleep at night when I read and reread the Hamas charter because I believe every word in it, because they mean it. I lose sleep at night when I read the words of Sheikh Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, because he too wants a world without Israel and without Jews. The list is a long one, but that's not all I read about, and that's not all that shapes my thinking, nor should it shape your thinking. What should shape our thinking is our conviction that we have the right to be in Israel. We shall stay in Israel. We have the right to live in peace and normality, whether in Sydney or San Francisco or Santiago, and a world which cannot find a place for the Jewish people in the state of Israel is not a world in which any civilized human being who respects the basic tenets of human freedom, human rights, and human dignity should want to live either. Our cause is not our cause alone. It should be the cause of every self-respecting Democrat, every self-respecting proponent of human rights and human dignity who cares about the state of the world. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will tell you that you invited me to speak and perhaps to inform or educate or perhaps even inspire you. But I want to tell you in sincere and total humility that when I see Jewish communities like that of Sydney, or that of Melbourne, or that of Australia, or I should say in this audience, that of South Africa, when I visit Israel, as I do every few months, it's I who am inspired to believe that our best days are ahead of us. Thank you so much for the privilege of having spoken to you.